Going live on YouTube. I think we're live now. It like tricks you. It goes live before it notifies you that you're live. So you have to be prepared. And I'm gonna pop out the chat box in case anybody wants to talk to us. I can see your comments. And here we are. I am back for Goddess Vibrations with Kirti. And we are going to talk about how to know when you're doing more mothering than lovering in your relationship. And I wrote a nice, long, detailed explanation of how this can happen in a patriarchal society and deepen with each generation. So if you're on my newsletter, that is in your inbox right now. I literally just sent it a few minutes ago. So I know, Kirti, I often send out these newsletters right before we go live, and you don't get a chance to read them before we go live. And yet you somehow always seem to download what I already said. So that's a special talent and gift that you have as a channel. So I have no worries about your soul has already read it. So we know where to go. But where should we start with this topic?
I mean, for me, immediately when I think about the mother and the lover, my first question is, why do we even see them as separate in the first place?
Mm-hmm.
And not as one unified expression that like the mother is the lover and the lover can be the mother, all in one, the mother energy. When we think about that, I mean, we ultimately came here from the mother vagina, which came from a love experience.
Yes.
But yet somehow those two acts become separated to like duty and role and pressure and expectation.
Yeah. And that's one thing I didn't comment on in the newsletter is, in my little overview of this, is because, we all have multiple archetypes within us at all times. And so what you're speaking to is like, why can't we, why can't it be ever present, like ever present and be unified? And, and we can kind of like flow into whichever archetype is needed in the moment. But this is a healthy person, right? This is a healthy, integrated person we're talking about. So maybe we'll get there by the time we're like 98 as a society. I don't know how long it takes, but I just know that at middle age, I feel like I'm just finally kind of like getting a grasp on this whole being a human thing to some level. And so, you and I, we work in personal development. So we're always doing our own work. So, I mean, and then there's this like cultural notion of the Madonna whore complex, right? So that's a problem too, because whore being lover, and it's like, you want that, like, what's that phrase? Oh, you want a freak in the sheets, but a lady in the streets, it's kind of like, oh, okay. So you want me to be one way here and a different way here. And you want me to disown, these other parts of me. But I think it comes from that Madonna whore complex. It's like you can either be attracted to a woman who's motherly and is primarily in that mother archetype, or you can be attracted to this like whorish, lustful lover, type of woman. But to see her in the same woman is like, oh, that's not, my brain is melting. When actually we are all of it as women, and we have to own all of it, right?
Right. Yes, most definitely own all of it, and know that the more work that you do on owning all of those parts of you and actually realizing how each part is a really beautiful limb of a gorgeous root system and core, connected to a whole network of human beings on the planet, the more that you do that work, you'll be able to access fruit from each of those limbs and branches at any time. Like you'll know when to bring out the sacred bitch. You'll know when to be the mother. You'll know when to be the lover. Mm-hmm. And oftentimes, those of us who find ourselves in relationships, I think, where, our intention is to be the lover, but we end up feeling like a mother. Oftentimes we can think that that's our partner that's putting us in that position, but also be aware that we attracted this partner to reflect that we are still doing that nurturing behavior that might not be completely serving and supporting the lover archetype enough. And so that we need to bring more actions to call in lover energy within ourselves, so that sometimes we think that the mother, if we act like the mother, will get lover energy. And the truth is that the masculine, if you want that, if the lover is looking for lover energy, that's looking for the equal and opposite of the feminine and the masculine, well, then you've got to really lean into that lover energy to like beam that masculine coming back to you. But if for some reason you think when I nurture and I take care of and I give up my own wants and needs and I just show you how much you're more important than me, that becomes, we start to go into the mothering piece. And also men are going to be chosen. And we're just speaking, I guess, men, women here for a moment, that men are going to be choosing women like that because perhaps they're here to heal their dynamic with their mother wounds. And so, of course, they're going to be chosen by a woman who's also ready to up level and alchemize. So again, you know, it's not like, oh shit, I fucked up. I'm a mother, not a lover. And this relationship is shit. And I need to just get rid of it right away. It's actually like a gorgeous opportunity for you to see where, wow, how each of us have shown up for each other to alchemize this unique part of ourselves. And as long as we're here together, we have this unique opportunity to step in and do this for each other. And what I think is gorgeous about this topic, and I love about the title, is that what I'm noticing, the pattern I'm seeing with clients right now, and the pattern that I'm seeing even in like our ritual work and our movement medicine practices, is that even the women are dealing with their own mother dynamics right now. And the last 3 months has been a lot of just us processing our own relationships with our mother, and a lot of women getting clear with their relationships with other women in their lives. And what does friendship mean? What does sisterhood mean? What does motherhood really mean? How were we mothered and how do we mother? Right. And so I guess it's really bringing out this dynamic that maybe a lot of times in a heterosexual relationship, you might feel like you're mothering your man. But the truth is, like, how are you actually maybe mothering multiple relationships in your life right now, instead of being a lover in multiple relationships of your life, where you're actually practicing being in complete receptivity, and then also being able to like be in projection mode, where you're able to imprint the relating with who you are.
So yeah, my little ADHD brain is going in a million directions right now because there's so many hot points that you brought up. Like this is so deep. It's so multi-layered. And interconnected, because I first think about, you know, the patriarchal stuff, which I spoke more to in my newsletter that I sent out. And by the way, natashaedwina.com, if you want to get on that newsletter, it's right there on the screen. So no excuses about finding it. But also like this whole idea of being a good lover in order to be a good mother, because to be a good lover, you have to really own your healthy appetite for your desires. You know, like you really have to be aware of and own and be like, I desire this and I'm going to have it, kind of thing. Because if you do that, you're actually going to be a healthier mother, because you're going to be able to take care of your own needs before you start pouring into your child, right? And so we think that we're taught as women, I think very much so, to pour into others, pour into our man, pour into our child. And even if you consciously know this is not a healthy thing, we are unconsciously constantly doing it as women. So there has to be some kind of conscious practice to unwind that. And so what you're talking about with your clients and in our sacred ceremonial groups and things like that, it's like deconstructing mothering and reconstructing a healthier way to mother. And so there's a healthy even mothering in your relationship, which I don't even want to necessarily call it mothering, but I'll say nurturing, because both partners can nurture each other in different ways. And I feel like one way to tell, is it equal, is one person doing the heavy lifting? Because if they are, that's a parent-child dynamic.
Right.
That's a hierarchy. That's not a co-rulership, you know? So that's one way. Another way is the passion dwindling. Because if you are in a parent-child dynamic, your pussy's not getting wet anymore by your partner. You want to feel his potency. You talk about potency and passion, I think, right? You talk about purpose and passion, and that purpose is like that masculine potency, that penetrating energy. If you're taking care of and doing all the heavy lifting for your partner, you're not feeling his penetration. You're not feeling his potency. You're not feeling his purpose, right? You're feeling like, oh man, I'm doing so much. So there's that. And then I think of things like in the workforce, even it's been said that, you know, when there's men and women both in the workforce, if a woman doesn't get up to make coffee, there's no coffee made in the office, right? She's naturally kind of, even in the office environment, providing this like domestic care. Or you see the little notes, like you and I both worked in schools, so you see little notes above the sink, like, please squeeze out the sponge, otherwise it starts to mold, like after you use it. And it's just like, it should be common sense to anybody who is, takes care of a household. But that's the thing that you have to tell, certain people to do that are just passing by, that are often testicle owners. but here's the difference. Okay, so if you're that woman that does make the coffee, and you make a beautiful, like kind of homey environment for your work space and your colleagues, how to tell if it's unhealthy or healthy? I feel like if you feel obligated, or like it's your role or your job to do that, unhealthy. That's a sign, right? If you feel like, I have a desire for comfort and coffee and beauty, and I want to create my queendom, even though I'm sharing it with these other folks, and you're doing it out of that, of like fulfilling your own need for beauty and pleasure, then I feel like that's a healthier behavior if you're still making the coffee from that place. My mom always said, I don't like to clean, I just like a clean house. That's a really important distinction, because if you didn't hear that from her, you'd be like, oh my gosh, she's such a clean freak, she just loves to clean.
Right.
Yeah, very important distinction. So much to unwind and look at in relationships. And in my newsletter, I did talk about the single mom raising, boys and girls, how women can then be, or girls can become parentified and overly responsible, kind of being the domestic mother, while mother goes out to be the provider, and how the boys can be parentified and taking on the emotional other masculine traditional duties in the house when they're still, developmentally growing, and it kind of it can stunt their development. And so they don't, they have too much put on them before they even have a chance to individuate. And then they go out into the world to try to be men, but they haven't had a chance to fully be a kid yet, and totally go through that stage. So then we end up with these men who are kind of boy men and doing boy things because they never had a chance to like really be a boy and screw up and whatever else fully. And then the cycle perpetuates even deeper, where now he's, fathering a child, but not really present, but now has the anger at his father for also not being present, which then can be turned inward in this like anger at self and shame. And I mean, it's very messy. It's very complex.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and it's wild that I'm sure that as you say that story and your listeners are listening, there's probably a lot that are like, yep. And it almost seems like such a common storyline, right? For most therapists or coaches or school counselors, or I would say sex coaches, like they would probably agree that that's a very common dynamic. And what I have to say to that is I'm intrigued by humanity, that we are saying the same things over and over again, yet we're still not willing to do something different and, switch the game up a little bit even more than how we were raised, and be really aware of our own false belief systems, or people will call them counterfeit personalities, or the masks that have been imposed on us as children, and as adults do the work so that we can get clear on our own masks, and then we can really be aware of the masks that we're passing down to the next generation. I really think that as a Western civilization, as somebody who's grown up in the United States, there's no rites of passage in order to learn to come out into the world as we are. In fact, it's our rites of passage is the television shows that we watch, as well as like porn, access to porn for a lot of guys. And that's where they're learning about their first, genital interactions with the opposite sex, or even with the same sex for that matter, if that's what they're exploring and into. And so I think that that's really where it starts, is that men and women, in terms of understanding their own energetics through puberty and their newest sensations, I mean, we really need an overhaul of the whole sex educational system to really start to shift what you're talking about. Because if more girls at adolescence were able to have a rites of passage that was about understanding them stepping into their genius, right? What they're good at and how it's going to heal the planet, versus what you're good at and how you're going to be likable, and how you'll get a man, and how do you have a husband, and how do you make sure that like you can keep your man, and how can you lose enough weight to like maintain a man's attention, and what the magazines are pretty much promoting. That's really our rites of passage as well, right? And so if we're looking at that, instead of young boys and girls coming out, and even queer children and trans folks being able to come out and be like, yo, this is who I am and this is what I choose to be in the world, and us creating spaces where they can understand what that will look like for them in the world we've created, we would have a much different perception of mothering and lovering. And also, I love what you said, like, if it feels like it's a force, it's usually a red flag. Yeah, everything should feel like an invitation, and you choose to do it. Everything is a choice. And also, if you choose to not do it, it's okay to be aware of how that upsets the people around you, and to not take it personally. And to know that when you're taking it personally, that's the work that you have to do to really step in even stronger, to buck the system and to buck the patriarchy. And that's probably old code that's not letting you just be satisfied in owning your yes and your no.
Mm-hmm. Well, that speaks to our last episode together, which is owning your inner bitch, right? It's like not giving a shit what people say about you moving a different way, and moving in a way that's more healthy for you and your lineage and your descendants. I talked about, like some of the patriarchal things, and what really, what I really felt is when you said just now, how can we see the problem with this but not be willing to change it, right? And to change the setup. And it's because it's like such a systemic issue, and there's like phases. Even if you think of like feminism and deconstructing the patriarchy, it's like different phases. And I notated in my newsletter that when women had the ability to go out into the workforce and be into the paid workforce, and she now had mobility to be able to leave these controlling, dominating, abusive relationships when that was happening, and unwind from that energy of control and ownership and everything that marriage started out as. Even if it has evolved to something different for most people, that is where it started. So it's going to have some energetic roots still in that control, ownership, domination, vibration. And so she now has freedom, but there's always a price to pay for your freedom, right? And now she's got extra work. So she's got freedom, but she's got extra work. Now she's exhausted.
Yeah. And I feel like the union of loving and mothering is really us honoring what the feminists did, and honoring like, okay, we get where you were at, and we get the rage and the sacred bitch of it. And when we start to move into the fusion of purpose and passion, and when the sacred bitch can actually alchemize and transmute, we move from feminist to like femininist.
Yeah.
Right. And it's this space to
otherwise known as fifth wave feminism.
Oh, I love that. Oh, that's beautiful. I've got to look that. I have never heard that.
Look it up. It's on Wikipedia even now.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Yeah. I love that. I love when we get like new fun terms that are like mess with our minds. But really, the reason why I'm saying that is because what is happening now is that women have become so much like men that we're now showing up. A lot of women are showing up as such empowered women, but they're having a hard time attracting men that are going to allow them to truly rest into that receptive state of femininity, right? And in order for us to do that, if we want to rest in femininity, we've got to find our creative flow state so that we can really start to get into our intuition and get into our divining and get into our spirituality and have the space and the comfort to do that And then we will start to attract in the most optimal match for us with where we're at in life. And this is the key piece of the tantric work and the energy work, is that if you're true to the work in your practice, you can trust the package is on its way. You just don't know how it's going to arrive. And it's probably going to have you continue to do more work where you're going to have to find, wow, well, I don't want to do it the same old way. So you're going to find all these unique gifts coming your way, unique presents that you're going to have to unwrap and look at their dimensions and see how does whatever's in that gift fit into your home. And you're going to actually have this awesome opportunity to choose, which is what we're talking about. You get to choose, like, oh, well, this gift, wow, this one really shows up and comes with like a home of their own. And like, I could move into their home and I could, possibly like reduce my rent, and they have a home. And also they have children. I have children. Like, you'll start to weigh out every single situation instead of looking for the magazine imprint or the Disney imprint, or for me, the Bollywood imprint of what a man and a woman is supposed to look like. That's why I'm like, trans is transformational. Trans is transhuman. Trans is, transsensual. So much more than transsexual. And trans to me is tantric ultimately, because we've got to step out of every single traditional role to figure out, like, some of us empowered women, if we really want to honor the feminists that were the sacred bitches of our time, you know what I'm saying? It's like, honestly, I love working. I actually enjoy it. I actually love the option of like saying, hey, I love my life, and I perhaps don't want to have children in this lifetime. I love my life. And I've had lots of amazing long-term relationships with beautiful partners. And I don't know if I want to completely get committed into a legal paperwork relationship called a marriage. Like, so for me, I love those benefits and ripple effects of being an American woman. And I'm also feeling into what is the new thing of the next phase, because we don't want to just repeat what our ancestors did. We want to spiral and evolve. So they did good. Now we're going to take their high, and it's going to become our low of our revolutionary movement. And we got to expand to the next place, which is men and women, queer folk, trans folk, all of us, brown folk, white folk, getting together in the spirit of consciousness and true healing, and being willing to take off all of the masks of separation that have been put upon us and our parents' parents.
Yeah.
And it's
and that, I mean, again, that's deep, deep work. That's like consistent, regular practice, like showing up, embodiment, really examining yourself, examining your shadows, examining these deep patterns. Because as I'm listening to you, number one, a lack of role models. You and I are trying to be that. We're trying to be trailblazers in our relationships. We're trying to conceptualize and reconceptualize what a actually healthy relationship is, and unsubscribe from that old model, right? And doing it in practice, and finding partners to do that with us, who are also trailblazers with the machete, like creating a path forward, so that it can be a healthier thing for our ancestors, for our lineage, for our world. And there's other people doing this work as well, and navigating. Nobody's like getting it 100% right. And I feel like, our ancestors, they got some things right and they got some things very wrong. They really made some mistakes over the human evolution cycle. And I feel just like racism, most people in modern day society, we're just like trying to figure out how to navigate through this tension that our ancestors really fucked this up, and now we're like, how do we break out of this mold or this model? Because we don't feel that way. We don't feel like we want to own another person, like, consciously, but it's been this thing, and now there's the racial tensions are still there, as are the sexism and tensions between men and women. And I feel like the more women are exhausted and feel like they're doing the heavy lifting, they're doing this work, they can get very resentful towards men. And I've been there. I move in and out of it all the time. Mama Gina says, like, you are going to be furious at the patriarchy every day of your life until it shifts. You have to find a way to not let it poison you and to move through it, right? And I imagine, I'm a white person saying this, so I say, I imagine it's the same fucking thing if you're brown and you're melanated, it's like you're trying to figure out how to like deal with this bullshit, and we can't be pointing the fingers at people anymore. It's naive to be pointing the fingers at people, and it's really about looking at the concept and the system and where we can intervene. And so in that example of the boys who never got to fully develop through their childhood stages, and society is developing now through its evolutionary stages, there's steps. And when he didn't get to fully go through that step, he's becoming a man, but where are the men? Where are the men who really have a good grasp on healthy masculinity? And sometimes he's lucky to have a grandpa or an uncle or a few that kind of give a good example, but a lot of these guys raised by single mothers didn't have that example. So even though he might, with all of his whole heart, desire to please the feminine, his mother and his partner, and be a good man, he has no idea how to become that, right? And then as women, we want to be have less burden and not have to maybe take care of so much, but we have no idea how to even do that when we have so much on our plates and we're juggling all of these things. And so it really has to be, I feel, this bird's eye view of really looking at all of the different entry points that we can intervene, and not just saying, well, it's your job to do this, or if not oversimplifying, like, if you just did this, then I could do this. That's definitely part of it. Somebody's got to pull up. But really what happens, and I think I was speaking about this on Sunday when we were gathered, is that we or maybe it was this morning, I've been in a lot of conversations the last 24 hours. It's like this idea of the collective, we're in the age of Aquarius, and it's this collective values and collective energy and like healing the collective, and this more of this emphasis on tribe. But to have a healthy tribe, you have to reclaim your sovereignty. You have to take personal full responsibility and fully show up, like you're saying, this trans sensuality, I love that word, in your full self, honest self. And that is what creates a healthy community and a healthy tribe. And we have it backwards. We think that creating a healthy family, a healthy tribe, is we focus on the children, we focus on other people. And that's what society is doing now with mandates and determining what your health should be and what you should wear and how many times you should pee. And I'm exaggerating, but it's the wrong direction, and it's predictable.
It's definitely the direction. I mean, another thing that should always count as a red flag that's not honoring the mother nor the lover is that if you are being asked to go against your natural grain, and your natural grain is your authentic truth. It's what you would do if there was no punishment involved, and that's always a great way. It's like, hey, if nothing would happen to you, would you want to do this? If you wouldn't lose your job, if you'd be able to go wherever, you wouldn't be denied a ticket, you could travel, you could do whatever you want. Like, would you still want to do this? And, that's another sign that that's not honoring the mother nor the lover, because the other piece is a lot of people, why do people associate the mother to Mother Nature is because it's, again, the birthing space and it's the birthing ground. And how ironic, we've been also talking about the pattern of the energy of the baby, right? That's just been around. And I do think that we have I know you definitely for the last 2 months have definitely been in the process of looking at the past and recovering certain things that were incomplete for the past, and then also shedding things that were actually complete from the past, right? And I think that is a big process that happens in the expansion phase right before the tension of giving birth. And I think that now we're almost feels as the collective that we're getting ready to give birth into those of us stepping into either trusting the external forces that are telling us what we need to do and how we need to raise our children and what we need to do to be accepted and to seek approval even more and to lose our own personal voice, our own personal truth. There are going to be those of us who are going to be born into stepping in and honestly trusting another source besides ourselves. Because if you're scared, you're going to lose your job and livelihood based on something you do that tells you you don't feel you have the power. Actually, you feel powerless. Mm-hmm. Those that are stepping into their truths and don't agree with what's being told to them and are having to like trust that they will be taken care of because they believe that this is who they are. That is stepping into power. And we're going to see a large birthing is going to come through. And I think that's what we're feeling. And that's why the motion of the baby and the dreams of the babies and like babies just all around. And like, I just had a client who, you know, they've been trying to get pregnant. She's been trying to get pregnant for 5 years and she just got pregnant. Oh, wow. So, and yeah, it's beautiful. It was after 3 sessions of energy work.
Wow.
And they've been doing fertility work. And so it's like, it's alive. It's in the air. It's about to be spring. You know, we're all like getting into the sense of the lover and the mother. Mm-hmm. It's like the horniness and the excitement. And also it's that very energy that allows us to give birth to the most beautiful and raw expression of ourselves. Mm-hmm. So what will it take for us to recreate a system that can reroot?
Well, it takes fertility, right? Metaphorically. So yeah. Like you said, doing the work.
Yeah, doing the work, clearing the pipes, taking, you know, we got to take shits every day. Mm-hmm. You should be processing your emotions once a day. Doesn't matter if you're a man or if you're a woman or if you're a unique expression of the two. It's like emotional processing is the single most beneficial thing that I feel that we can do to tap into who we truly are. And also being aware of where we are going for our spiritual truths and where we are going to access the mother and lover archetypes and making sure that those are spaces that are not repeating the patriarchy, not repeating cultural appropriation, not repeating freaking penetrative marketing approaches that are based in corporate greed and money-making strategies, but that are rooted in fertility of creativity, imagination, connection, and support. True mother lover qualities, intuition that is agile and adaptable and that looks at the ripple effects. Like those who are in the mother and lover understanding will think about how everything they do affects nature and the children.
Yes. When you become a new mom, especially a new mom, first time mom, you are researching everything, like every ingredient, I mean, thank goodness for overly anxious mothers. Otherwise, GMOs would have ravaged. I mean, they already have kind of ravaged our guts and everything, but they're kind of keeping on top and keeping, you know, the world somewhat accountable because they're looking at the long range. They're looking at the long run. So I feel, again, it's metaphorical. It's like, what is the big picture? What is the, what's the end game here? What's the, right. You know, how does this grow and sprout?
Right.
I am curious. I want to back up a little bit. I don't know if it's back up or switch gears a little bit. Oh, by the way, one last thought. When you're talking about fertility and preparing and doing the work and processing emotions, so much of fertility, modern fertility is like this scientific, you know, in vitro and doing all this stuff. But if you go to a naturopath or a traditional Chinese medicine doctor, they are detoxing. They're removing things rather than adding some kind of scientific experiment. And they're detoxing the body so that and clearing the blockages, right? So that the body can naturally conceive. So I really see that as a beautiful parallel to what you're saying about clearing the emotions and even clearing the body of substances that, you know, could be getting in the way of conceiving and all of that. So, and it's a process of peeling back the layers. you have to, sometimes even the detox process can be 3 to 6 months to prepare to even conceive.
Wow.
And even more so sometimes if you've been on the pill for a long time or some other kind of
Right.
So there's that. And fertility has been a big theme for me that for several months. It keeps coming up, and I keep getting these messages about fertility, and I'm like, okay, is it like biological or just creative or all of the above? I don't know what's going on, but it just keeps, it's been coming to me hard and fast for a while. And yeah, and I have a guest, probably I'm going to be doing a collaboration soon with a woman who works on sacred fertility, and she helps people kind of get in contact with their spirit babies and conceive in that way. So again, it's energy work as well, but a different kind.
Yeah, that's dope.
Not something I know a ton about, but that's why I'm interested in, either having her on the show or kind of doing a conversation with her, an interview. So there's that happening. But I want to go back to, the microcosm of our day-to-day relationships. And it seems like there's some men, or a lot of men, I would say, that are attracted to nurturing, motherly women, right? Or they see a woman as motherly and they're very attracted to that. And I think there's a piece of it that is like, which might be the healthier piece, is like, she could be really powerful in the home and a good mother to our children, in a healthy family, and there's this or whatever. She's this warm place. And as I think it was Rebecca said yesterday, the feminine is a soft place to land, right? For her.
Right.
She's talking about her son. And then there can be the men who are attracted to a motherly woman because she can take care of his needs, like take care, to feed him and make sure he gets his clothes ironed and, takes care, straightens his tie. And that was such a like romanticized thing, I think, in sitcoms, and just a cultural notion is like a woman should be able to fix her man's tie before he goes to the office or whatever, it's a weird like image. And now in more modern versions, she's helping him with his bills and she's helping him build his business. And and it's interesting because historically men have had the advantage in that area. So what's going on, right? That this is shifting. And again, it's not black and white. It's not like, there's always different circumstances to look at and tease out as we recreate this flexibility in the gender roles, but still have it be balanced and equal. And again, that unity and a new form of relationship without putting people into boxes and having them constricted, and they're really in line with their natural energies. Like you said, you love to work. I love to work. I don't know if you know what your human design is. Do you know your human design?
Yeah, I'm a manifestor generator.
It seems like that's such a rare thing, but so many people I know are manifesting generators. So I'm a generator and I'm a sacral authority. So I was just reading about it today. I don't know that much about it, but I have somebody coming on hopefully soon to talk about this stuff too. But generators, and probably manifesting generators as well, have a lot of like life force energy. Like they just are a lot of energy, and they love to work. Like I love to work too. So, and got lots of energy to burn. So there's that. So I feel like you can't, I don't want our listeners, especially like our female listeners, to be watching this and be like, yeah, these good for nothing guys. And I only attract these guys that, want me to mother them or whatever else. There is a healthy attraction and an unhealthy. And I think it's really important for women to be able to discern which is the healthy and which is the unhealthy. And I'm wondering, what do you think are some of the early signs that it could be an unhealthy mothering attachment?
Well, I think the first sign is if you find yourself, altering your schedule, to serve and support a new lover or a new interest. And in the beginning, of course, that happens when it's like you're first meeting each other and
dopamine.
Right. And it's great.
Yeah.
And also you want to check the areas and the parts of your ritual that you had, your practices that you had for yourself before you meet your lovers. And just sometimes it helps. Like I'm a Virgo, so of course, like I have a list, somewhere where I'll say, okay, these are the things that I really do for myself that really help me maintain my sanity. And sometimes when you meet somebody new, it will want to like carve away at those things. And you want to notice what are the first things that you omit from your list, right? And if you're finding that you are filling up your lover's cup and their well of being from like your well, not from an overflow of your well, but like your actual well that's there to serve you and what you need. And if you're, now serving somebody else from that, you need to, that would be a red flag. You'll immediately feel it because you'll notice that you don't have energy to do the things that you do for yourself.
Well, one thing that is so very simple, but kind of, I never really thought about fully until recently because I'm such, my addiction is overworking. Like if what we all have these addictions, right? That we're
Right.
my main one throughout my life has been overworking, doing too much, like all this stuff.
Right.
That's my area I have to look out for. And it's honestly, it's a lot of it is, there's many reasons, but a lot of it is wanting nice things and a nice lifestyle.
Totally.
So there's that. I'm learning how to do it differently now. When you're in that kind of mode of being, you're not leaving a whole lot of time for play, pleasure, creativity. And historically, especially now, being a single mom and a business and a PhD, it's like I have to intertwine those things and make, my play is also business networking and stuff like that, which is the life of an entrepreneur anyway. But I think it's really important as a woman who is calling in her partner to stay in that healthy mothering relationship. So you're not having you can be a mother to your children, and a man can be attracted to your motherly qualities, but not in a toxic way, is to keep that space in your relationship for a partner. So it's like, I might not have a partner right now, but I still have this space created, and I'm going to fill it with friends, or I'm going to fill it with dates, or I'm going to fill it with getting social and meeting new people, or whatever you want to fill it with. But it can be really easy to get involved with your passions and work, and then that space starts shrinking. And then pretty soon a partner comes along, or somebody that might pique your interest, and you're like, oh, now you have to drop and cut off things that are important to you because there's no space. And so it's hard to discern,
right?
Am I dropping things for this partner, or did I never create space for a partner, right? But if you already have that space, and I think about, with my teeth, because now I have a space in here that's waiting for some new healthy teeth. Maybe when I get my new teeth, I'll have my new healthy partnership. It'll just like go together. But I have this space, right? And it's like, it's interesting. At first I was like, oh my gosh, like there's this big gap in my molars, but now I'm like, it's like waiting for something, the right situation, the right setup.
It's actually an opening.
Yeah, exactly.
Something that was once kind of blocked, and actually started to create that.
Yeah.
Started to create some dis-ease, and it was like, actually it needed to be opened up. And from that opening, you were able to get really clear with what you need in your restructuring, right? In recreating your system. And so it's like, I love what you were speaking to in terms of like, is it that you never really had space for your Kundalini awakening and for your Kundalini remembering and for your Kundalini work? Or is it that you have allowed somebody to come in? And actually the truth is, they're both one and the same. The reason you're probably attracting somebody that's keeping you away from all of your self-love practices is because you have had a lifetime of this lifetime has been a way, by working for others, you avoid what really maybe wants to be dealt with. And there might be some fear of like, well, if I really step into the work with myself, am I willing, and am I ready to see what needs to change? And I have to actually shift parts of my life to make things different if I want different outcomes.
Yeah, not only shift and change, but become a bigger version of yourself, which often equates to loneliness for women.
Right.
And women do not do well with aloneness.
Well, we've been trained that our existence is for other people's pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
And we've literally been bought and sold historically. And when we haven't followed the rules of the patriarchy, we've been burned and killed. And those male counterparts who have supported us have been burned and killed as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, all of that is running in the bloodline of humanity as well. And there's a deep-seated fear within women and within our DNA and epigenetically that we are also carrying that. That's why the work is so important, to transmute those deep-seated fears within our cellular memory of every time we tried to break the rules, the punishment that has historically been received by our parents and our parents' parents and all of the people who served on the soil, served their lives on the soils from which we eat our vegetables and meat to this day.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And then it's complicated by different racial traumas, right? And different
Of
religious
course.
traumas. I think of like the Holocaust, you know?
Yeah.
And what's so interesting, I think, with gender and race is like gender and our gender roles, like we literally have to unify to procreate to continue the species, right? So it's like it keeps us continuing to do the work. And with racial tensions, it's like, nah, we can split off and just keep to our
Right.
cultural group and keep the separation and you know, grow strong within our, you know, cultural heritage or whatever. And so it's like there's some overlap, but some differences too that I'm really aware of. And I'm with you, like I like the trans sensuality and the unity and how we can come together and see how we're more alike than different, and just unwind all the isms and all the crap. And I know.
Yeah, and I think for me, for a long time, I thought either lover or mother. Shout out to Adrienne, who is like my astrologer. She used to do astrology for the Vision magazine, Adrienne Abeta. And she does really dope stuff now called Soulful Slumber Parties with another amazing sister, Jennifer. And Adrienne had this come to Jesus moment with me when we were in session in my 30s, and I was in a partnership. And you know, it was this thing where I was trying to think, am I going to have a child or not? Like, I feel like I'm supposed to make this decision in my late 30s and like really get it together, and just like, fuck, what the fuck? Why? It was something broken in me. Like, why am I not feeling this like mama gene that everybody else is feeling? And like, I just don't get excited when I hear children crying, or like, I think babies are cute. I love kids, but like, I don't have that, you know, just yearning that I hear women talking about. And I think I did probably have it at some points in my life, but then somehow it shifted. And, you know, maybe it could be based on the partners. But I remember in session one time, I just said, well, you know, I've always felt since I was a child that like, I have this love that I want to share with the world and the planet. And like, if I have children, I'm going to put all my love into them. And I won't be able, like, there's something deep inside of me that feels like I won't be able to serve like larger communities as I would like to if I have children. If there's something that's going to be, and I don't want, I experienced that with my parents who had to like sacrifice so much family life for livelihood and to do what they believed in. And I just I didn't want another child to have to experience really what I had to experience. That was the real thing going on.
Mm-hmm.
And she told me, she was like, why does it have to be either or? Like, you have to be a working woman or a mother. Like, you can be a working woman that's a mother. And it's the same thing. It's like, do you have to be a mother or a lover? It's like, you can be a lover who is a mother and a mother who is a lover.
Mm-hmm.
And find the unique play and the wave of that, because the truth is the wave is where the momentum is, and the wave is where life is. Every time, if we find just complete balance, it's a flat line. And we all know what the flat line means.
Boring, stagnant,
and dead.
Growth. Yeah.
That's literally dead. So I think the fact that if you're in relationship and you're having these wonderings, it's a gorgeous opportunity. That probably means something wants to shift in your relationship, to have a conversation with your lover and see how you can shake some stereotypical roles that you're playing and some stories that maybe you're falling into in your relating. And they actually want to expand, maybe not just for you or your lover, but perhaps even for your ancestry. And so it's amazing to be able to talk about that with your partner and say, I mean, man, I feel like I'm trapped right now in this job that I have. And like, I wish I could just ease up and take some time off, like what would that look like for me to be able to receive some time off and see really honestly what your partner might actually be able to provide for you in order to truly do that.
Yeah, I believe that. I love what you're saying about the wave, because the wave is also like knows when to surge forward, when to retreat. It's all the rhythm,
Mm,
the harmony. It goes by the moon, which is the feminine intelligence, the intuition, the download, the alignment, the season, all of that stuff. Because I too have that thing where I actually have it in my astrological chart as well. I have Cancer on the top of my chart, so it's really about nurturing and mothering the whole world, and I have this deep desire to do that. And that's when I realized I needed to be a mother of human children, because I was so into mothering every being around me that I'm like, I'm going to like smother people if I don't have my own children to funnel some of this into, to
totally.
somewhat balanced and healthy in this expression, because it's like everywhere. And then I have moon in Cancer too, so it's like all of this mother energy. And a Taurus, so I like the earth mother, so I owned it. And my children align me they help with my alignment, so that I am showing up as a mother collectively in the most aligned and efficient and powerful way, right? Because they help me with discernment of what feels really right, because they come first before career. Well, of course they come first, but it's so simultaneous. Like, you
Right.
really can't have one without the other, kind of thing. And that's what it looks like for me. And so yeah, like that wave, and owning where you're at with that, and how that works for you, and the efficiency of it. I think it's the sacred balance. And what kind of mother do you want to be? I've had some really special times with my kids the last couple weeks, and it was rocky there in January while I was sick, and I was feeling very like, oh my gosh. But I'm starting to see some things shift, and this homeschooling thing has just given us many beautiful moments together. And now my daughter and I are going to the sauna together, and that's my cultural heritage from Finland. That's where that comes from. So I'm teaching her. We're going in there with just the towel. No, you see all these other people, their shorts, their gym clothes on, their sweatshirts, their headphones, they're on their cell phones, and I'm like, no, this is not how it works. I think of you all the time, because you're like, this is not what yoga is from India. And so I'm like, oh yeah, Kirti, I totally feel Kirti in this.
You're right.
And so we're in there in our towels, and then waking up with sweat. And luckily, it's like the sauna we go to is in the women's locker room, and then it's the cold shower, which is kind of where the cold plunge idea comes from too. It's like get hot and then cold. And yeah, it's been really beautiful to like introduce her to her culture, her half of her culture, really. And to share these intimate moments in the sauna, talking about life or talking about whatever, as we're sweating, right? We're releasing, we're like detoxing. It's just been
Wow.
so special to me. And she even said, because I bought her membership now, so she's like, Mom, when I'm here, I hope we go every day. So I'm like, she's kicking my butt. Like, she's on me. It's like the best accountability. You have a little Leo in your a little 14-year-old Leo in your home. You got a fire starter right there. So it's just been so beautiful and so special. And I just, gosh,
Well,
I
and
just
like this
cherish
is
it.
such a powerful example and way to even like wrap up this gorgeous conversation, because it's like, what a beautiful example of mother and lover. Not only are you showing, the mother connection with your daughter in terms of like purging and modeling like self-care, but you're also providing the lover connection of like spending quality time together. And really what we've been talking about in all of our work this month about that deep rest,
Yeah.
that deep rest. That's that rest that, you're right, it doesn't involve a cell phone. It doesn't involve going in with trunks. It's like, what would it really look like for me to remember the most empathic felt part of me and really soothe any part of me that's carrying shame and guilt. And really, how can I take the time to just go in and create art out of this and like release and purge? Like you're also showing that that's what real connection and rest looks like. And that's the type of lover you want to attract, who gets this and understands this about us and our people.
And reclaiming the feminine, reclaiming
Ashe.
and owning the feminine. Absolutely. Oh man, it's been such a illuminating and beautiful episode. And I know it was our intention to stick to an hour, and we did it. We're just under. So I think this is a great ending point, again, with that intention of making it more accessible to our viewers and giving us deep rest, because you have a AM Kundalini practice virtually that starts at 6 a.m. And I don't know what the heck time you get up to actually show up to that. I wonder about that sometimes, and when you do sleep, because you have so much going on. But yeah, I also want people to know that you're doing some really powerful work in person and online, and they can work with you one-on-one, and then show up to this morning virtual practice, as well as your new moon creativity consciousness in-person events in San Diego, as well as your full moon ritual, and you help people design these full moon rituals.
Wow, look at you, Natasha. You just like, I love how you know all my shit. Like that's like a lover quality for me.
Aww.
So thank you. Like that tells me that it is possible for people who love you and care for you to know what your offerings are and when they are, and can like openly talk and share about them. Like, I thank you. I just feel so seen right now.
Oh, good. That makes me happy. That
Yeah.
I do. I see you. I honor you. I appreciate you.
Mm,
I love you. And thank,
too.
thank you for your time and attention. Thank you for showing up just to yourself, man. Like you're such an embodiment of, the change that we need in the world. And I really, really honor you for that. I can say that about so few people, really, at the end of the day, that are really
Wow.
truly authentic. So I can recommend your work wholeheartedly. And yeah, I hope that you get some folks that find
Mm,
you, and
yeah.
your info will be in the caption of this episode, and you'll be back every
Yes,
other
I
week.
will.
So we'll come back with another powerful topic. For those of you watching, I do advertise these kind of last minute, because Kirti and I really want to feel into what the themes are, and we really want to feel into what's active and alive and keep it fresh for y'all. Because if we're feeling it and our clients are feeling it, that means that y'all are probably feeling it too, and it needs to be spoken. So we are the truth speakers, and I hope you join us again. Join me next week, and then Kirti and I in a couple weeks.
Yay.
Good night, everyone. See you soon. Thank you for being here.
Bye.